of $10,000 a day.
I'm not stupid. I know this is going to end one day.
What was growing up in Adelaide like?
Oh, growing up in Adelaide, it was a bit isolating. So this, I think my whole childhood prepared me for this moment. But yeah, Adelaide's a very, in terms of like across Australia, Adelaide's one of the most homogenous places, I think.
What do you mean? What does homogenous mean? Sorry, I don't know.
So it's just like the same. So like,
Okay.
people are the same in terms of like race, upbringing.
Right. That's what I think of,
background.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people's perceptions of Australia as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I think in some instances, Sydney can be like that. You also find a lot of pockets where it's really like influenced by a lot of different cultures, and you see a lot of different people. And when I first moved to Sydney, actually, one of the things that I found so crazy was that I could be walking down the street and I would hear people speaking languages other than English, which never happens here.
Wow.
So I was just like, whoa, this is so crazy. But yeah, Adelaide's definitely kind of the place where people like to stick to the status quo a little bit. So as a kid, like I remember when we first came here, when I was 4, once I started going to school and my mum would make me like all of our traditional foods for lunch, I would go and I'd sit at the table at school and everyone would have like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and like Vegemite scrolls, and I'd just be like the odd one out eating like this African stew with like my
Would they
hands.
say anything to you about it? Would you?
Yeah, 100%. So people would be like, oh, that smells weird, that looks weird.
Did you feel weird? Did you internalize that? Or?
Yeah, 100%. I remember actually one of my first like vivid memories of my life is the first day of school. When I walked in, I felt like, I don't know why, the way that I remember it is that I was an astronaut that had landed on this weird planet. And so there were all of these like aliens looking at me, and I was kind of just like, oh, this is so strange. And I looked at everyone else as like the different ones, but they obviously looked at me as the one that was kind of isolated. And so it was like this weird kind of like experience where I was entering a new space and I was aware of the fact that I was the outsider, but I still viewed them as like the ones who were different to me. But as time went on, I kind of like, was kind of stifled a little bit because as a child, I was naturally very meek and quiet. And so it was very easy for me to just like stop and like kind of fall back into the crowd and kind of just try my best to assimilate. But as I got older and once I started, I think one of the significant moments for me was when my youngest sister was born. I kind of viewed her, I saw a lot of myself in her, and I wanted to protect who she was. I didn't want her to stifle herself the way that I had to stifle myself. And so I kind of, that was like a triggering moment for me where I thought that I had to stop this facade of just being like the friendly, meek, quiet girl that was just in the background, and I kind of just like embraced a lot of my more like naturally bold, almost like loud, confident.
So you were like unapologetic with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect word for it. I just stopped with the whole facade and became a bit more unapologetic, and I noticed such a shift when I did that because things would naturally fall into place the way that I thought that they would. So instead of having to try to be friends with someone, they would naturally like be more drawn to my personality rather than me having to pretend to be like really quiet and timid and friendly, and so that people would view that as like non-threatening. But yeah, and then I kind of just ended up kind of finding myself a little bit, and it sucks to say that I had to do that as a result of like pushing against the crowd and kind of overcoming all of these weird boundaries that had been put up against me. But I think it's always like I remember just like being so inspired by having like a younger sister that I wanted to care about, and then seeing as well, this was when Lupita Nyong'o had like just won the Oscar as well, and I was just like, oh my god, like yes, I can just be myself, and it's not anything that people are gonna be insulted by.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it really truly is. Yeah.
And on the Lupita Nyong'o sentiment, how important do you think representation and diversity is in the entertainment industry? Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't remember exactly how the quote goes, but something along the lines of, you can't be what you can't see. So I really fell into that when I was younger. I just sort of was convinced that like people who looked like me just weren't beautiful, or like we weren't desirable, and it's like I had to find utility in other ways because I would never be seen as someone who could occupy like an artistic creative space, and a lot of that had to do with like the immigrant mentality that my parents have of like having a job that's like practical. Like I always felt that I had to prove that I was worth something because I was so undesirable in like a conventional sense. And then it's like slowly but surely, I feel like we're really lucky to grow up in a generation where like there was such a huge cultural shift where people of different sizes and cultures and looks were embraced as like beautiful. And I remember as a kid I would always naturally think that, but society had kind of like forced this stereotypical like vision of like beauty and what was entertaining to me, so I just kind of absorbed that. But yeah, again, it was like really freeing to be like, wait, no, everyone can be beautiful in their own way, and we all deserve to have platforms and have our voices and our journeys heard. And like it's a really uniting experience. Like it reminds everyone that we're all human and that like we all have similar struggles, and despite our differences in appearance and like backgrounds and stories, I love that.
Yeah. But what's also super interesting about you is that you study medicine.
Yeah.
So, and I remember we spoke at the beginning of this whole situation, and you gave such a detailed sort of like, I don't know, explanation of what was going on. Where are you now into like, with all the knowledge that you do have?
Yeah.
What do you think about this situation?
It's really funny to think about because I actually, like while I've been studying, I went back and I watched one of the first lectures that we had at the start of the semester, and it was this epidemiologist who was just like, this whole coronavirus situation is going to blow over, like it's a lot of media hoopla and they just want to like inspire this kind of like fervent panic in the mass populace, but it's really not that big of a deal. So at first I was kind of like, yeah, she knows what she's talking about, it's all like, it's fine, it's all like going to be handled well. Now I'm kind of in the place where I think that this has shown how the like public health sector really needs to be like completely revamped, because in a lot of countries we do a lot of public health like comparisons, and a lot of countries obviously seem to have better responses and others have worse responses. But the thing that's interesting to see is how, I guess, a country's like planning an initial response to something is really important for like the longevity of people's well-being. And while I think in a lot of ways this has been like, I don't want to say that it's been an overreaction, because it's definitely been appropriate to make sure that everybody's like abiding by all of the requirements. I think what's interesting to note is in places like South Korea, where they were really well prepared for this, life is kind of proceeding as normal.
Right.
And so it's just like for me, my kind of thinking has shifted from more of like, oh, we don't need to panic, to we need to preemptively prepare so that we don't have to ever panic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of still, I don't know where things will be in like a month or even like next week. You know, everything could be fine, everything could get so much worse, we could have like a second wave, or life could just proceed as normal. So it's just really interesting, I think, to just be cautious and like make sure that you're keeping up to date and staying like in contact with those around you, but not to panic and like really freak out too much.
I love what you said with preemptively prepare so that we never have to panic. Like I feel like that could apply to so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, like every facet of life, like just preemptively prepare. So has it sort of, are you, like, 'cause with your modeling career as well, are you sort of happy that you do have that medicine background, and in the face of a pandemic, like you can move straight into that and, you know, look as modeling as like that was a good time? Or are you sort of missing it? What are your thoughts around the duality between where your career and, you know, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, kind of like in a bittersweet place at the moment, because I really do miss modeling. I miss collaborating with people. I miss like being exposed to different art styles and like unique voices and like up and coming designers and all of that. I think it is one of my favorite parts about modeling. So it's not even the actual act itself, but sort of the holistic experience. I think it's something that's really unique.
I love that. Yeah, that the way you described it is so beautiful. Yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously that's something I don't think I could get in medicine ever. Like there's a lot of collaboration, but it's less about the experience. Like you can't be a surgeon and like be doing surgery and being like, oh, this is a great experience. Like it's about doing something and doing it well. And while you definitely have that facet in modeling where you do want to do something well, it's also, it's a journey. It's not like a more like rigid, strict like set of things that you have to like move through and motions that you have to complete. So yeah, that's the one thing I think that I'm really feeling the effects of in this isolation.
Is like the lack of creativity that you did get to have. You're represented by Culture Machine Agency.
Yes, I am.
That's like, for anybody who doesn't know what that is, could you sort of shed some light on it?
So Culture Machine is this like amalgamation of like creative direction, photography, talent management. So I fall into like that category of the models that are managed. And yeah, it's I think been a really good introduction to the modeling space for me, because as I said, it is like this like amalgamation of all things creative. So
it's a very, very cool space. Like, and you
so
walk in, it's like, wow, there's so much going on here, and everybody's like organically getting on and working together and making things. I think it's very different to a traditional modeling agency where there's a board and you come in, you get your digis, and you just receive a text when the casting's on. Like you have this full circle relationship.
100%.
Yeah. And how has that sort of shaped your modelling journey, do you think, having this experience with Culture Machine?
It's definitely made the whole experience so much more personable and genuine, I think, because modelling is one of those industries where it's very easy to become just like a face in the crowd, or like a number on someone's screen.
Or a look, or an ethnicity,
and so knowing that it's about, in Culture Machine, it's about when you first walk in and not even when you leave the studio, but like after that, you know, like Yaz is constantly checking in on us. We have a group chat where like it doesn't have to just exist as like this isolated experience. It really has integrated into all facets of my life, to the point where like Yaz is such a good friend of mine. All of the models, we're all like really, I think we just feel like a genuinely connected family.
That's so lovely.
Yeah, and all of the people that we collaborate with kind of welcome us into their space and we welcome them into ours, and it becomes like this really mutual, genuine exchange of like energies and like creativity and thoughts. And I've never felt like I was just a model. It's always been, you feel really integrated into the process, from the makeup artist to the stylist. Everyone really cares about you as a person.
That's great.
Within Culture Machine, and Yaz would never want it any other way. Like, she's made it very clear that we get a lot of autonomy and freedom, and if we want to speak up about something, that's encouraged. So I feel like I've had like a really positive experience of modeling in general, and I know that it's not something that's common. So yeah,
well, that's great, that's good for you, and I think that's all we need to focus on, really, and hopefully
exactly,
knowing that that experience does exist will not deter people who want to do it but are like, oh, I dealt with so much shit, you know, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, it's just about finding the right fit for you, and it doesn't have to be sitting on a massive main board and never getting any work. It doesn't have to be like that. Thank you so much. I think
thank you.
we can wrap it up. This has been such like a nourishing conversation.